Tell Cale Thornhart that if he crosses this line, he crosses it knowing another crown is already here. The words reached Alara before she saw the man who had spoken them. Silver Oath Field had barely settled after the Nightfang riders disappeared east when unfamiliar banners rose beyond the northern ridge, white wolves embroidered across deep blue cloth. Rowan moved closer to Alara. Elias lowered the Greyhaven documents he had been studying beneath the relay awning. Across the field, the royal wolves stationed there after the succession investigation quietly turned toward the approaching delegation. No one drew a weapon. No one needed to. 40 riders descended the ridge in 2 measured lines, stopping nearly 50 yards from the relay. Their leader dismounted alone. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and dressed without ceremonial armor, wearing only a dark blue traveling coat and a silver crown seal at his collar. King Evander Thorn of Frostvale, Elias said quietly. Alara knew the name. Frostvale ruled the northern territories beyond the Blackpine Range, nearly 300 miles from Nightfang's capital. Its border disputes with Nightfang were older than Cale's reign. What Alara did not understand was why its king had crossed that distance for her. Evander walked forward until Rowan raised one hand. He stopped immediately. His gaze moved to Alara, not to the royal wolves behind her. Princess Alara Valorith. The title struck differently from Lady Alara, not because it sounded grander, but because Evander spoke it as though there had never been any question. Alara's hands moved. Why are you here? Rowan translated. Evander reached inside his coat slowly and removed a narrow envelope sealed with faded blue wax. Because yesterday a messenger delivered this to my court. Elias stepped forward. From whom? No name. Evander held the envelope out but did not approach farther. Elias accepted it, inspected the seal, and opened the already broken fold. His expression changed almost immediately. Alara watched him read the first line twice. What? She signed. Elias looked at her. It mentions Lucian Greyhaven. The field seemed to narrow around those 2 words. Evander's voice remained calm. Lucian Greyhaven was not merely a keeper connected to House Valorith. 22 years ago, he witnessed a royal compact between Valorith and Frostvale. Alara stared at him. Elias looked up sharply. That compact does not appear in the Crown Charter records we recovered, because Nightfang never held the original. Evander reached beneath his coat again and produced a silver document case. Frostvale does. Rowan glanced at Alara. What kind of compact? Evander's eyes never left hers. One written for the possibility that House Valorith might lose its throne. Alara felt the old instinct to distrust certainty rise inside her. Her hands moved. You expect me to believe this because you brought a document case? For the first time, something almost like approval touched Evander's expression. No. I expect you to examine the evidence. That answer unsettled her more than persuasion would have. Elias accepted the case, but did not open it yet. Why bring this personally? Evander looked toward the distant eastern road Cale had taken hours earlier. Because if the woman standing here is truly Mara Valorith's daughter, then Frostvale has obligations that survived her mother's disappearance. Alara signed again. What obligations? Evander's expression became unreadable. To recognize your claim, to protect your right to choose, and to prevent another crown from deciding your future before you understand what was taken from you. The irony was sharp enough to make Alara's chest tighten. A king had crossed 300 miles promising to protect her from kings. Before she could answer, a horn sounded from the southern road. Every royal wolf on the field turned. Black and silver banners appeared beyond the trees. Rowan whispered, Nightfang. Alara stared as riders emerged onto the road, moving fast but orderly beneath the fading afternoon light. At their front rode the one man who had left only hours earlier. Cale had returned. Evander did not reach for his crown seal or move closer to Alara. He simply watched the approaching Alpha King and said, Now we find out whether he came back for the truth or for you. Cale stopped his horse 30 yards from the Frostvale line and dismounted before anyone could announce him. The Nightfang riders behind him remained on the southern road, their banners lowered, but Alara felt the tension move across Silver Oath Field like a change in weather. Evander stood several feet to her left. He did not step in front of her. Cale noticed that. His gaze moved from the Frostvale King to the silver document case in Elias's hands, then finally, to Alara. I received your message, he said. Alara's expression tightened. She had sent no message since he left. Rowan saw the question in her hands. What message? Cale reached into his coat and gave Elias a folded dispatch. This arrived less than an hour after I left the field. It said Frostvale forces had crossed the northern boundary and claimed Alara under an old Valorith compact. Evander's eyes hardened. I made no such claim. Elias opened the dispatch carefully. Who delivered it? A Nightfang relay rider carrying a valid Western seal. Cale looked toward Evander. That is why I came back. Not because I believed the message. Because someone wanted me to. The answer changed the air. Alara looked at Evander. He had also received an anonymous message involving Lucian Greyhaven. 2 kings. 2 messages. 1 field. Her hands moved. Evidence first. Rowan translated. Cale nodded immediately. Always. Evander studied him. A useful principle for a king who once banished her without it. Silence followed. Rowan glanced toward Alara, but Cale answered before she needed to translate anything. Yes. Evander seemed almost disappointed by the lack of defense. You admit it? Publicly. Cale's voice remained level. I approved her banishment without giving her the hearing she deserved. He looked at Alara. I do not intend to repeat that failure by deciding what Frostvale means to her before she does. Evander's gaze sharpened. Then you have changed. I am trying to. Alara felt the simplicity of the answer more deeply than she wanted to. Evander stepped toward the weathered table beneath the relay awning and placed one hand beside the document case. Frostvale recognizes Alara as the surviving heir of House Valorith. Provided the evidence confirms Mara's bloodline and the compact's conditions. Cale did not look at him. He looked at Alara. And what does Alara recognize? Evander paused. That is for her to decide. Then we agree on something. The 2 kings faced each other across the table, but Alara suddenly understood what disturbed her. Both were speaking carefully. Both claimed to respect her choice. Yet kingdoms had already begun moving around her before she had chosen anything. Her hands rose. Stop talking about me while I am standing here. Rowan's translation cut through the field. Cale lowered his eyes first. You are right. Evander followed a second later. My apologies. Alara pointed toward the silver case. Open it. Elias inspected the clasp, verified the Frostvale seal, then lifted the lid. Inside lay a preserved copy of an old compact and a second document wrapped in blue cloth. Evander said, the compact names the last lawful Valorith heir as the deciding authority in any restoration of the house. Alara looked at him. Then why did your message bring you here? Evander unfolded the second document. Because the anonymous sender included something our archive did not possess. Elias leaned closer. The page carried a faded notation beneath Lucian Greyhaven's name. This references Mara, he said. Alara's breath caught. Evander nodded. 3 months after Mara disappeared, someone requested sanctuary for a Valorith heir inside Frostvale territory. Rowan stared at him. Was it granted? The record says the request was withdrawn before the heir arrived. Alara signed. By whom? Evander looked at the empty authorization line. That is what I came to discover. Cale stepped closer, stopping before entering Alara's space. And the false message sent to me? Elias compared its seal with the Greyhaven documents. His expression slowly changed. Not identical, but the registry structure is familiar. Alara already knew what he meant. Derivative authority. Elias nodded. Someone did not merely want King Cale back at Silver Oath Field. He looked from Cale to Evander. Someone wanted both kings standing here at the same time. The silence after Elias spoke felt more dangerous than an accusation. Alara looked from the false Nightfang dispatch to the Frostvale documents spread across the weathered table. Someone had guided both kings toward Silver Oath Field, but she refused to decide why before the evidence could answer. Her hands moved. Compare everything. Elias nodded and began with the paper, seals, registry marks, and dates. Evander remained opposite Cale, neither man speaking until Rowan quietly asked, what happens if the compact is authentic? Evander answered Alara rather than Rowan. Frostvale recognizes House Valorith as a sovereign house. If you are its lawful heir, you would be entitled to request protection, territory negotiations, archive access, and formal recognition from my crown. Alara signed. Request. Not receive automatically. Correct. And what would Frostvale request from me? Evander was silent for a moment. Cale noticed. So did Alara. Finally, Evander opened the compact to a marked passage. A recognized union between House Valarith and Frostvale. Rowan frowned. Marriage. That is how my council has interpreted it for generations. Alara felt something cold settle beneath her ribs. There it was. Not a command. Not yet. Something more polished. A path lined with respect until the destination had already been chosen. Evander continued before she could respond. I did not come here to demand marriage. I came because your existence changes the legal meaning of an agreement my kingdom has preserved for 22 years. Alara pointed to the document. Does it say marriage? Elias leaned over the passage. Not in the wording visible here. It says a union recognized by both crowns. Evander nodded, which is why I brought the document instead of sending a proposal. Alara studied him. That answer mattered. It did not erase the expectation behind it. She signed again. If I stand beside Frostvale, who decides what union means? This time Evander did not answer immediately. Wind moved the blue banners behind him. You would have a voice. Alara's expression changed. A voice, not the choice. Evander understood before Rowan translated her next signs. My council would also have authority under Frostvale law. He admitted. Kale's jaw tightened, but he remained silent. Alara looked toward him. He could have attacked the weakness in Evander's offer. He could have reminded her that Nightfang already knew her, that their mate bond existed, that he loved her. He did none of those things. Instead, he said, ask for the original interpretation records. Evander glanced at him. You are advising her how to examine my offer. I am advising her not to trust either of us when records can answer better. Alara felt the words land somewhere tender and inconvenient. Evander gave a quiet breath that might have been amusement. You are not the king described in Frostvale reports. Kale's eyes remained on the documents. Some of those reports were probably accurate. No defense. Again, Elias suddenly lifted the false dispatch sent to Kale. There is another problem. He placed it beside the anonymous page Evander had received. Different handwriting, different wax, but both reference registry authority through the same obsolete keeper branch. Rowan asked, can you trace it? Not from these copies. Evander looked toward Alara. Frostvale has sealed Greyhaven records that Nightfang never received. If you come north under my protection, every one of them will be open to you. The offer was powerful because it contained something she wanted more than status. Truth about Lucian. Truth about Mara. Perhaps truth about herself. Alara's hands moved slowly. And what does standing under your protection make me? Evander met her gaze. A sovereign heir protected by Frostvale until your claim is settled. Not free, she signed. Evander's expression tightened, but he did not deny it. Before anyone could speak again, a Nightfang rider hurried across the field carrying a sealed message. Garrick received it and read quickly. Your Majesty, our northern posts report Nightfang units moving towards Silver Oath Valley. Kale's eyes narrowed. When did the movement begin? Garrick checked the dispatch again. Before your return to Silver Oath Field. The first companies received their instructions while you were still riding back. Evander's head turned sharply toward his commander. Almost at once, Frostvale rider arrived with a blue dispatch pouch. The commander opened it, read the message, and looked at his king. Our forward units also began moving before King Kale returned. They were told Nightfang was preparing to secure the valley. Kale and Evander looked at each other. Alara looked instead at the documents between them. The timing changed everything. No argument on this field had caused the armies to move. Someone had started the movement before the two kings even faced each other. Her hands rose. This was already happening before either of you arrived here together. Rowan translated. Elias slowly nodded. Which means the confrontation was not the cause. His gaze dropped to the obsolete keeper marks. It was part of the plan. Kale did not look toward the northern road again. No one advances, he said. Garrick hesitated. Your Majesty, if Frostvale units are already moving toward the valley, our commanders will expect authority to secure the southern pass. They have their authority. Hold position. Do not cross the Silver Oath boundary. Across the table, Evander turned to his commander. Send the same order north. No Frostvale unit enters the valley without my direct confirmation. The commander bowed and left at once. Alara watched both kings choose restraint, yet the field still felt smaller than it had minutes earlier. The new timeline made the danger clearer. The first troop movements had begun before Kale returned and before either king confronted the other. Someone had anticipated this meeting and prepared the kingdoms to react around it. Armies did not need angry kings to create a crisis. They needed frightened commanders, incomplete messages, and one mistake repeated faster than truth could travel. Elias was still studying the compact when another group approached from the Nightfang line. For council representatives had accompanied Kale back from the capital, carrying a narrow black case marked with the royal legal seal. The eldest counselor stopped beneath the awning. "Your Majesty, we were informed King Evander intends to invoke Valorith's succession protections." Evander's expression cooled. "You were informed incorrectly." The counselor ignored him and looked at Kale. "Then this can be resolved immediately. Nightfang mate law gives the crown a prior relational claim recognized before foreign guardianship." Alara went completely still. Prior claim. Two polished words carrying the same old assumption. Kale's face changed. "No." The counselor blinked. "Your Majesty, you will not invoke mate law. But if Frostvale establishes protective authority over Lady Alara before Nightfang registers the bond, the political consequences could be severe." Kale stepped away from the table. "Then we deal with the political consequences." The counselor lowered his voice. "The law exists precisely for circumstances in which competing crowns dispute jurisdiction." Kale looked at Alara. She could see the conflict in him, but it was not indecision about whether to claim her. It was anger that anyone expected him to. "She is my mate," he said. "She is not my territory." No one spoke. Alara felt the words reach a place inside her that apologies had never touched. Months ago, the bond between them had been another fact others believed should determine her future. Now Kale was standing before his own council and refusing to use it, even when doing so might strengthen his kingdom's position. The counselor tried again. "Your Majesty, refusing the claim may be interpreted as surrendering Nightfang's interest." "Nightfang has no interest in owning her." Kale's voice stayed quiet. "If Alara chooses Nightfang someday, it will be because she chooses it, not because I found a law that makes refusal inconvenient." Alara looked down before anyone could read too much in her face. Evander broke the silence. "An admirable distinction." Kale met his gaze. "It should not be remarkable." Evander glanced at the Frostvale Compact. "Perhaps not. Yet both our councils seem remarkably skilled at turning protection into possession." Alara looked at him sharply. He had included his own kingdom. That mattered. Her hands moved. "Then prove the compact means what your council says it means." Evander nodded. "There are interpretation records." Elias looked up. "Where?" "St. Oran's Monastery. Roughly 40 miles northwest of here. Inside the neutral border district. The original treaty commentary was deposited there because neither crown was permitted to control the only copy." Rowan leaned closer. "Can it be requested?" "Yes," Evander said. "But the monastery recognizes requests only from treaty signatories or their lawful successors." His gaze settled on Alara. "Which means the request must come from you." Elias closed the silver case. "Then that is our next evidence." A relay bell rang outside. Garrick returned carrying 2 new dispatches. Nightfang's northern commanders confirmed they received an order to advance 6 miles towards Silver Oath Valley. Kale's eyes narrowed. "I issued no advance." Evander's commander entered seconds later. "Frostvale received the same instruction from our side. 5 miles south." Elias compared the authorization marks beneath the lantern. Both are derivative credentials. Related structure, but not enough to name the source. Alara looked from one king to the other. Both had ordered their armies to stay back. Someone else was ordering them forward. Her hands moved with sudden certainty. "Do not send me to the monastery." Evander frowned. "Why?" Alara pointed toward the forged commands. "Because whoever wants us looking 40 miles away is already working here." Then she turned to Garrick and signed again. "Send a neutral rider instead. Request the original compact and every surviving interpretation record under my authority as the Valorith heir." Garrick looked to Kale only long enough to receive a nod confirming that the relay would honor her request, then prepared the dispatch. Evander added the Frostvale archive reference without altering Alara's wording. Within minutes, a neutral rider left Silver Oath Field under a white relay flag, carrying Alara's sealed request toward St. Oran's, while she remained exactly where the hidden hand behind the forged orders had not expected her to stay. Alara watched the neutral rider disappear along the northwest road towards St. Oran's, the white relay flag becoming smaller beneath the fading light until the trees swallowed it completely. She had sent the request. She had not abandoned the field. That distinction mattered. Behind her, Elias kept both forged orders on the table. The ink was still dark, the seals convincing enough to move trained commanders, and that frightened her more than an obvious lie would have. He placed the Nightfang order beside the Frostveil order and measured the registry spacing with a narrow brass guide. They were generated from different offices, he said, but whoever created them understood both systems. Evander's commander frowned. Our relay codes change every season. Garrick looked at him. So do ours. Rowan folded his arms. Then someone has access on both sides. Alara's hands moved. Or someone wants us to believe that. Elias glanced up and nodded. Exactly. Kale ordered every Nightfang relay between Silver Oath Field and the Northern Pass to suspend movement commands unless they carried direct confirmation from Garrick. Evander issued the same restriction to Frostveil. Within minutes, riders departed in opposite directions carrying instructions designed not to advance armies, but to stop them. Another dispatch arrived before sunset. Garrick read it beneath the awning. Nightfang's forward companies have stopped 8 miles south of Silver Oath Valley. Evander's commander checked his own message. Frostveil units are holding 7 miles north. 15 miles separated them. 15 miles sounded like safety until fear began shortening the distance. Elias returned to the forged documents. There is a timing sequence embedded in both registry marks. Whoever issued these expected the orders to arrive within 20 minutes of each other. Kale's gaze sharpened, so neither side would have time to verify before seeing the other move. That appears to be the intention. Evander looked toward the northern horizon. Then this was designed to create reaction, not victory. Alara felt the shape of the trap becoming clearer. Her hands moved. And what story would people hear afterward? Rowan translated more slowly this time. No one answered. Alara pointed first to Evander, then Kale, then herself. 2 kings. 1 disputed heir. Armies moving. Rowan's expression changed. They would say the kingdom's mobilized because of you. Alara nodded. Not because of forged orders. Not because someone manipulated the relays. Because 2 kings wanted the same woman. Kale's face went still. Evander looked at the Frostveil Compact as though seeing its political weight differently. A story like that would survive longer than the evidence, he said. Elias quietly added, especially if the evidence disappeared afterward. The words carried an old familiarity. Alara's own banishment had taught her how easily a false conclusion could outlive missing proof. A Nightfang counselor stepped closer. Then perhaps the safest solution is to settle Lady Alara's alignment immediately. If one crown formally recognizes her position, commanders would know where authority rests. Alara turned toward him. There it was again. Choice presented as protection because everyone else feared uncertainty. Evander's council representative spoke carefully. Frostveil could offer temporary sovereign protection until the compact is verified. The Nightfang counselor answered. Nightfang has the stronger existing bond. Kale's voice cut through both. Stop. Alara looked at him. His expression was not directed at Evander. It was directed at the idea itself. You are doing exactly what whoever forged these orders expects, Kale said. Turning Alara into territory that must be assigned before peace is possible. Evander considered that, then faced his own representative. No protective declaration without her request. The representative bowed reluctantly. Elias suddenly lifted the Nightfang dispatch toward the lantern. Wait. A faint second impression appeared beneath the authorization line. He checked the Frostveil order. The same impression appeared there. These were processed through a relay duplication protocol. Garrick stared at him. That requires a master routing key. Evander's commander went pale. Only Crown relay offices have those. Elias shook his head. Not only Crown offices. He reached for the old Greyhaven chronology. Before the Keeper Registry was dissolved, continuity authorities were issued emergency routing access across Allied territories. Alara's heartbeat slowed. Greyhaven again. But Elias did not stop there. Someone is using an authority designed to keep kingdoms communicating during a crisis. He looked toward the distant valley. And they are using it to manufacture one. By the time darkness settled over Silver Oath Field, the 15 miles between the 2 armies felt far smaller. Relay fires glowed on the northern and southern ridges, distant points of light marking where hundreds of wolves waited for orders their kings had never intended to give. Alara stood beneath the awning while Elias reconstructed the routing sequence from the forged dispatches. The emergency protocol was designed to bypass damaged relay stations, he said. A continuity holder could redirect authenticated orders during a regional crisis. Rowan looked toward the valley. So whoever has that authority can make one kingdom believe the other has already moved. If the recipient fails to verify the source, yes. Kale turned to Garrick. Send another hold order through 3 independent riders. No relay duplication. Evander gave the same command to his northern officers. Neither king argued over who should act first. That should have reassured Alara. It did not. A horn sounded from the southern ridge. One long note. Then silence. Garrick stepped outside. Seconds later, an answering horn rose from the north. Evander's commander stiffened. That is our readiness signal. Nightfang used the same signal generations ago, Garrick said. Evander looked at him. Not anymore? Not officially. Elias stopped writing. Alara felt the trap tighten. Someone was using old systems because old systems overlapped. Her hands moved. What would each army think the signal means? Rowan translated. Garrick answered first. Nightfang may interpret the northern horn as preparation to advance. Evander's commander added. Frostvale could interpret the southern one the same way. Alara stepped from beneath the awning. In the distance, movement passed between the relay fires. Not an attack. Lines shifting. Commanders preparing for what they feared might come. Kale followed her only as far as the edge of the shelter. Alara. She turned. His voice was quiet. Do not walk into that valley alone. Evander came beside him. For once, Nightfang and I agree. Alara stared at both kings. Then her hands rose. If I stay behind you, what will your armies see? Rowan swallowed before translating. 2 kings protecting the woman they think the other wants. Alara pointed toward the open ground. If I stand where neither banner flies, what do they see then? Neither man answered immediately. Kale understood first. Someone who has not chosen a side. Alara nodded. She started toward the center marker of Silver Oath Field, an old stone post standing nearly a quarter-mile beyond the relay. Rowan walked with her. Elias followed, carrying both forged orders. Kale and Evander came behind them, but neither brought guards. At the stone marker, Alara stopped and turned toward the distant ridges. Nightfang fires to the south. Frostvale fires to the north. 2 crowns waiting on opposite horizons. Elias placed the forged orders on the flat stone. We need direct confirmation from both forward commanders before anyone moves again. Alara signed. Bring them here. Garrick frowned. The commanders? Yes. No armies. No escorts. 1 representative from each side. Kale nodded. Do it. Evander agreed. Riders departed at full speed under white relay flags, carrying direct summons to the forward posts. The waiting stretched nearly an hour. No one spoke more than necessary. Then 2 figures appeared from opposite roads, each accompanied only by the rider who had summoned him. The Nightfang commander arrived first. The Frostvale commander followed minutes later. Elias asked both men to produce the orders they had received. For documents now lay on the stone. Alara watched Elias compare them. His face slowly hardened. The advance orders are not merely forged. They were timed in stages. Each new instruction depended on the other side reacting to the previous one. Kale looked toward the ridges. A chain. Yes. Elias pointed to the final authorization field. And this last stage contained something the earlier copies did not. Beneath the derivative credential was a small circular mark, incomplete, at its center. Evander leaned closer. I have never seen that seal. Alara had not either. Rowan whispered, that does not look like a crown. Elias stared at it. No. It looks like an identifier. Alara's hands moved. For whom? Elias shook his head. I do not know yet. Another horn sounded from the north, answered almost immediately from the south. Alara looked at the 4 orders, then at the 2 commanders standing together without their armies. The forged messages were not trying to make one side win. They were trying to make both sides react until stopping became impossible. She signed slowly. The armies are not the target. Kale's eyes narrowed. Then what is? Alara looked from him to Evander, then placed her hand over the Valorith compact. Rowan understood before she finished signing. The choice, he whispered. Alara nodded. Someone wanted the world to believe 2 kingdoms had been maneuvered into a war neither king had declared because both crowns wanted her. And if she chose either one now, the lie would become almost impossible to separate from the truth. The trap was not designed to force a battle. It was designed to force Alara to choose before she understood what choosing would mean. She stood beside the old stone marker while Elias arranged the 4 forged orders beneath a lantern. The 2 forward commanders remained several feet apart, their armies still waiting beyond the dark ridges. Kale and Evander stood without guards or banners. For the first time that night, they looked less like rival kings and more like witnesses. Alara's hands moved. "If I choose Frostvale tonight, what happens?" Rowan translated. Evander answered carefully. "My council would declare Valorith under Frostvale protection until the compact is verified." And Nightfang? Kale's expression hardened with understanding. "Some of my council would call it foreign control over a disputed royal house." Alara turned to him. "If I choose Nightfang?" Evander answered this time. "Frostvale would question whether your decision was freely made while standing inside Nightfang influence and bound to its king." Rowan exhaled. "Either choice gives someone a reason to keep the crisis alive." Elias nodded. "And once one crown formally claims alignment, the forged orders become harder to separate from the political dispute." Alara looked down at the incomplete circular mark. A false choice. That was what someone had built around her. Not chains. Not a locked door. 2 respectable paths, each leading exactly where someone else wanted her to go. Her hands moved again. Who benefits if Valorith becomes the reason these kingdoms distrust each other? Elias opened the Greyhaven chronology. Anyone who fears what a restored Valorith house could expose. Evander looked toward the compact. Or anyone who wants its restoration controlled. Kale added quietly. By making sure Alara cannot stand independently. The words settled over the stone. Alara remembered being banished because others had decided silence meant guilt. Now kingdoms were preparing to decide that uncertainty meant she must belong somewhere immediately. Different language. Same mistake. Evidence after judgment. She pointed to the circular mark. "Find it." Elias compared the symbol with every copied keeper seal in his case. Nothing matched. Then the Frostvale commander spoke. "I have seen something similar." Evander turned. "Where?" "Old border routing ledgers. Not as an official seal. More like a notation beside messages transferred outside normal channels." Elias looked up. "Can you access those ledgers?" "Copies are kept at our forward relay station." Garrick immediately said. "Nightfang keeps equivalent ledgers at the southern post." Alara signed. "Bring both. No copies made tonight. Originals witnessed by both sides." Kale nodded. Evander did the same. 2 riders departed at full speed under white relay flags. While they waited, Evander moved closer to the stone, stopping several feet from Alara. "If the compact is authentic, Frostvale will still offer recognition." Alara met his gaze. He continued, "But I understand now that an offer made while armies are moving is not a free offer." Something in her expression softened. Not trust. Respect for the distinction. Kale said nothing. Alara looked toward him. He had every reason to fear what Evander might offer once the crisis ended. Yet he did not remind her of their bond. He did not ask her to remember his apology. He simply waited. Nearly 40 minutes later, the ledgers arrived. Elias opened the Nightfang volume first, then Frostvale's. He searched year by year until his finger stopped. Here, the incomplete circle appeared beside a transferred message from 22 years earlier. Another appeared 6 pages later. Then another. Rowan leaned closer. "What does it mean?" Elias read the notation key from the front of the ledger. His face changed. "External continuity routing. Origin withheld by protected authority." Evander frowned. "Protected by whom?" Elias compared the dates with Lucian Greyhaven's disappearance. "That is what concerns me. These marks begin after the Keeper Registry was supposedly dissolved." Alara's heartbeat slowed. "The same hidden structure again." Kale asked, "Can it explain tonight's orders?" "It explains how they traveled without normal origin records." Elias turned several pages and stopped again. This entry was newer. Much newer. 3 weeks ago. Everyone leaned toward the ledger. A protected routing request had been sent simultaneously toward Nightfang and Frostvale. Its subject line contained only 3 words. Valorith succession response. Rowan whispered, "Before Alara opened Mara's tomb." Elias nodded. "Before either kingdom publicly knew she had a claim." Alara stared at the entry. Whoever created tonight's crisis had not reacted to her discovery. They had expected it. Her hands rose slowly. They knew I was coming. Kale's eyes met hers. Evander looked toward the two distant ridges. Elias closed the ledger halfway. And if they knew you would discover your inheritance, they may also have known exactly what both crowns would do afterward. Alara placed one hand over the compact. The armies had never been the real weapon. The kings had never been the real target. She was, not because someone wanted to destroy her, but because they needed her to make one predictable decision. Her hands moved with sudden clarity. Then I will make the one choice they did not prepare for. The decision was made before either king understood what Alara intended. Dawn had not yet reached the eastern ridge when she asked both forward commanders to summon their senior witnesses to the old stone marker. No. Armies moved. No banners crossed the valley. Only council representatives, relay officers, Elias, Rowan, Garrick, and the two kings gathered beneath the fading lantern light. On the stone lay the Frostvale Compact, the forged orders, and the two routing ledgers. Alara stood behind none of them. She stood at the center. Evander spoke first. If this is about Frostvale's offer, you are under no obligation to answer tonight. Alara's hands moved. I am answering because waiting has become someone else's weapon. Rowan translated. The Nightfang counselor stepped forward. Then the kingdoms need clarity. Until the false orders are contained, uncertainty itself creates risk. Alara looked at him. That is exactly what they want you to believe. Elias placed the ledger beside her. The evidence supports that concern. The protected routing request was created 3 weeks ago. Whoever initiated it anticipated a Valorith succession question before Alara's claim became public. Evander's council representative lowered his gaze to the compact. Then Frostvale should formally secure her status before whoever planned this can interfere further. The Nightfang counselor answered immediately. Nightfang can provide stronger protection through the existing mate bond. Kill did not move. Alara looked toward him. He could have ended the argument with one sentence. He could have invoked law, history, or the bond between them. Instead, he stepped away from the Nightfang Council and left open ground between himself and Alara. Do not use me to pressure her, he said. The counselor stiffened. Your Majesty, I am trying to prevent political confusion. Then stop confusing love with jurisdiction. Alara's breath caught. Kale met her eyes, but he did not reach for her. Evander watched the exchange before removing the silver crown seal from his collar. He placed it beside the Frostvale Compact. Frostvale offers recognition, archive access, and protection if you request them. I will not pretend my council expects nothing in return. They expect alignment. Some expect union. His voice remained steady. But I will not call expectation freedom. Alara looked at the two symbols before her. Nightfang's authority rested in Kale's presence. Frostvale's rested in Evander's silver seal. 2 crowns. 2 paths. Both could offer safety. Both could also become cages if she entered them, because fear had chosen first. Rowan stepped beside her, ready. Alara raised her hands. I will not stand under Frostvale's crown. Evander held her gaze and nodded once. The Nightfang counselor exhaled, almost relieved. Alara was not finished. I will not stand under Nightfang's crown either. The relief vanished. Even the distant relay fires seemed suddenly still. Rowan translated exactly. She chooses neither crown. No one spoke. Kale's face revealed pain for only a moment, but he did not look away. Evander asked quietly, Then what do you choose? Alara placed her palm over the old silver oath marker. Myself. Then the truth. Then whatever comes freely after that. Rowan's voice softened as he translated. Alara continued. If either kingdom wants peace with me, meet me without ownership. If either king wants my trust, do not ask a law to give you what I have not chosen to give. Kale lowered his head. Agreed. Evander looked toward his council. Frostvale agrees. His representative hesitated. Your Majesty, without formal alignment, the compact remains unresolved. Alara pointed to Elias. Then we resolve it with evidence, not possession. Elias opened a blank record sheet. A neutral inquiry can be established under the Silver Oath provisions if both crowns consent. Kale answered first. Nightfang consents. Evander studied Alara for a long second, then pushed his crown seal away from the compact. Frostvale consents. Alara felt something inside her loosen. Not because either king had surrendered, but because neither had demanded that she do so. Then a relay rider appeared on the northwest road beneath a white flag. the same neutral route Alara had authorized hours earlier. He had returned from St. Oran's after carrying her sealed request for the original compact and surviving interpretation records. Garrick received the monastery packet and passed it directly to Elias. Elias examined the seal carefully before opening the outer fold. St. Oran's confirmed your authority as the lawful Valorith's successor for purposes of treaty review. Evander stepped closer. Did they send the commentary? Elias unfolded the first preserved sheet. His eyes stopped on the opening lines. More than commentary. Alara watched his expression change. They found the original compact. Rowan whispered, "Does it define the Union?" Elias looked directly at Alara. Yes. He lowered his gaze to the ancient wording and read silently for several seconds. Then he said, "And it does not require marriage." The original compact changed the meaning of everything without changing a single choice Alara had already made. Elias held the monastery copy beneath the lantern while the first gray light of morning spread across Silver Oath Field. The relevant clause reads differently from Frostvale's preserved version, he said. Evander moved beside him. How differently? Elias traced the ancient line. The union shall be chosen freely by the last lawful Valorith heir and may bind crowns, councils, territories, or peoples without requirement of marriage. Silence followed. Evander looked toward his own copy. Without requirement of marriage, he repeated. His council representative opened the Frostvale Compact and searched the corresponding passage. Those words are absent. Yes, Elias said. And the remaining sentence still reads correctly without them. Whoever altered the later version did not need to rewrite the entire agreement. They only needed to remove the language protecting the heir's choice. Alara felt no triumph, only recognition. Someone had done to a treaty what others had once done to her life. Remove enough truth, and the remaining pieces could still look complete. Her hands moved. When was Frostvale's copy made? Elias examined the archive notation. 19 years ago. Evander's expression tightened. 3 years after Lucian disappeared. Kale looked toward the protected routing ledgers. And after the Keeper Registry was supposedly dissolved. Elias nodded. The same period when Derivative Continuity Authority was already operating. Alara pointed toward the original compact. Witnesses? Elias turned to the final page. 2. His finger stopped. Beside the first seal. Lucian Greyhaven. No one seemed surprised anymore, which somehow made the name heavier. Rowan asked, and the second? Elias leaned closer. The mark was not a royal crest. It was a thin circle surrounding an empty center. The same incomplete symbol that appeared on the forged routing orders. Evander stared at it. That mark existed 22 years ago. At least, Elias said. He checked the witness notation beside it. Most of the ink had faded, but several words remained legible. Independent Continuity Witness. Identity protected under Silver Oath Authority. Alara's heartbeat slowed. The hollow circle had no name yet, but it had history. Kale looked at her. Then whoever manipulated tonight may be using an authority older than both our reigns. Alara signed. Do not give the mark a person until we have one. Elias nodded. Agreed. Evidence first. Always. Evander turned toward his commander. Send withdrawal orders. Frostvale returns to its previous border positions. Kale faced Garrick. Nightfang does the same. Both commanders left together. Within minutes, relay horns carried new signals toward the ridges. This time the messages had been witnessed by both crowns, copied by Elias, and carried through independent riders. No hidden routing. No borrowed authority. No uncertainty disguised as urgency. Evander removed his silver crown seal from beside the altered compact. Frostvale will recognize the neutral inquiry. Kale placed Nightfang's seal on the opposite side of Elias's blank agreement. So will Nightfang. Evander signed first. Kale signed second. Neither signature claimed Alara. They only promised cooperation. She looked at the document for a long moment before adding the Valorith mark Mara had taught her through the tomb records. 3 houses represented on one page. No marriage. No make claim. No surrender. Rowan smiled faintly. That looks more like a union. Alara's hands moved. One chosen freely. Kale saw the signs before Rowan translated. Something quiet passed through his expression. Not victory. Perhaps hope learning how to survive without entitlement. Evander closed the altered Frostvale copy. My council will not enjoy explaining how this language disappeared. Alara signed. Then ask who benefited from removing it. Elias was already examining the hollow circle. There is one more thing. Beneath the protected witness notation was a registry reference, almost too faint to see. He compared it with the routing ledger from 3 weeks earlier. The sequence matched. Rowan's smile disappeared. The same authority? The same branch, Elias said. Alara looked toward the ridges as the distant relay fires began going dark one by one. 2 kingdoms had been maneuvered into a war neither king had declared because someone expected her to choose a crown. She had chosen neither, and the trap had failed. But the documents revealed something more troubling than a failed scheme. Whoever had altered the meaning of her inheritance had begun long before she knew she possessed one. Her hands moved slowly. They were not preparing for my decision. Elias looked at her. Kale understood next. They were preparing the choices you would be allowed to have. Alara stared at the hollow circle beside Lucian Greyhaven's name. For the first time, the mystery no longer felt buried in her mother's past. It felt organized, patient, still active, and somewhere beyond the quiet field, someone had just learned that the Silent Omega would not choose from the crowns they placed before her.